the sun dipped low over the quiet streets of Lagos, casting long golden shadows across the front porch of the Adeyemi family home. From the outside, it looked like a perfect life, a spacious duplex, 2 cars parked in the driveway, and laughter occasionally spilling from the windows. But inside those walls, a storm had been brewing for years, one that no one on the outside could see. Michael Adeyemi sat on the edge of his bed, his head bowed and his hands clasped tightly together. For 10 long years, he had fought to keep his marriage alive. 10 years of silent sacrifices, long hours of work, and biting back his pain, all because he believed in family. He had grown up without one, his father gone when he was just 7 and his mother doing everything she could to keep food on the table. When he met Tola, he thought he had finally found the love and stability he had always dreamed of. But dreams, as Michael was learning, had a way of turning into nightmares. That evening, the house was quiet except for the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. Michael's chest felt heavy as he stared at the packed suitcase sitting at the foot of the bed. He had made his decision. This time, he wouldn't shout, he wouldn't argue. He would simply leave. From the kitchen, he heard Tola humming softly as she prepared dinner. Her voice was beautiful, soft, melodic, almost angelic. It was the same voice that had first drawn him to her over a decade ago at a church choir rehearsal. She had been everything he wanted back then, sweet, gentle, and full of promise. But somewhere along the line, that woman had vanished, replaced by someone Michael could barely recognize. His mind drifted to the message he had seen on her phone 3 nights ago. "I can't wait to see you again, baby. He'll never know." The words had seared into his heart like acid. Michael had stared at the message for what felt like an eternity, his breath caught in his throat. He had suspected something for months, the late-night calls, the sudden weekend errands, the way she seemed distant even when they sat side by side. But seeing proof, it was like a knife twisting deep inside him. He had confronted her the next day, his voice calm but trembling. "Tola, is there someone else?" She had looked him straight in the eye, her expression unreadable. "Michael, you're imagining things. I've been stressed, that's all." But her words had rung hollow. There was a coldness in her tone, a lack of warmth that told Michael everything he needed to know. Now, as he zipped up his suitcase, he felt a strange sense of peace. He wasn't leaving because he hated her. He wasn't leaving to punish her. He was leaving because staying had become unbearable. His love for her was still there, buried beneath layers of hurt, but it wasn't enough to survive the betrayal. As he lifted the suitcase, a framed photo on the dresser caught his eye. It was from their wedding day, Tola in a stunning white dress, Michael beaming with pride as they stood before their families and friends. That day, he had made vows to protect and cherish her forever. He swallowed hard and whispered, "I kept my promise." "You broke yours." When Tola came into the bedroom a few minutes later, she froze. The suitcase was gone, and the wardrobe door stood slightly ajar. Her heart began to race as she noticed the empty space where Michael's shoes had been neatly lined up just hours earlier. "Michael?" she called, her voice shaky. There was no answer. On the neatly made bed, she found a single envelope. With trembling hands, she opened it and read the note inside. "I can't fight anymore. I wish you happiness, even if it's not with me. Take care of yourself, Tola." For the first time in a long while, tears welled up in her eyes. She had never expected him to leave, not like this, not without a fight. Michael was the kind of man who clung to hope until the very end. His quiet departure hit her harder than any shouting match could have. But almost immediately, her sorrow gave way to anger. How dare he leave me like this? After everything we've built together? Tola stormed around the room, her mind racing. She wasn't ready to admit it, not even to herself, but deep down she knew why he had left. The affair she thought she had hidden so well was no longer a secret. In the weeks that followed, Michael built a new life from scratch. He rented a modest one-bedroom apartment on the other side of the city, away from the memories that haunted him. The transition wasn't easy. Some nights, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering where it had all gone wrong. At work, his colleagues noticed a change in him. The once cheerful and dedicated engineer now moved through the office like a ghost. His boss, Mr. Balagan, pulled him aside one afternoon. "Michael, you've been a valued member of this team for years. Whatever's going on, I hope you know you're not alone." Michael forced a smile. "Thank you, sir. I just need some time." Outside of work, he kept mostly to himself. He started jogging in the mornings, partly to clear his mind and partly to exhaust himself enough to sleep at night. He stopped checking Tola's social media, stopped answering calls from mutual friends who didn't know the full story. It was easier to cut himself off completely than to face constant reminders of what he had lost. But healing was a slow process. There were moments when he almost reached out to her, on her birthday, on the anniversary of their wedding, or simply on lonely nights when the silence felt unbearable. Each time, he stopped himself. He reminded himself of the betrayal, of the pain etched into his very soul. Meanwhile, Tola's life began to unravel. At first, she had felt free, even excited. With Michael gone, she could be with Kunnal, the man she had been secretly seeing for nearly a year. But Kunnal was not the steady, reliable partner Michael had been. He was wild, unpredictable, and often careless with her feelings. 2 months after Michael left, Tola discovered Kunnal had been seeing another woman. The betrayal stunned deeply, but she couldn't confront him without revealing her own duplicity. As the months passed, she began to miss Michael in ways she hadn't expected. She missed his quiet strength, his unwavering support, the way he always put her needs before his own. For 10 years, he had been her anchor, and she had taken him for granted. By the end of the year, Tola's once comfortable life was in shambles. Kunnal was gone, her friends were distant, and even her own family seemed to judge her for the failed marriage. Financially, she was struggling too. Michael had always handled the bills and savings, and without him, she quickly realized how unprepared she was to manage everything alone. One rainy evening, as she sat alone in the house they had once shared, Tola made a decision. She would find Michael. She would apologize, beg if she had to, and maybe, just maybe, convince him to come back. The next morning, Michael was at his new apartment, sipping a cup of tea, when there was a knock at the door. He wasn't expecting anyone. Frowning, he set down his cup and opened the door. There she was. Tola stood in the doorway, drenched from the rain, her eyes red and puffy from crying. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Michael broke the silence. "Tola." "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, we need to talk." Michael's heart pounded in his chest. 1,000 memories flooded back, the love, the betrayal, the nights of silent tears. He stepped aside and let her in, though every instinct told him to guard himself. As she walked past him, he wondered what she could possibly say after everything that had happened. Little did he know, this meeting would change both their lives forever. The air inside Michael's small apartment felt thick with unspoken words. Tola stood awkwardly near the door, her hands clasped tightly together, while Michael leaned against the kitchen counter, his arms crossed over his chest. For a moment, the only sound was the steady drumming of the rain outside. Finally, Tola broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "Michael. I know I don't deserve to be here. I know I hurt you in ways I can never take back. But please, just hear me out." Michael's jaw tightened. He had spent an entire year preparing himself for this moment, telling himself he was over her, that her choices no longer had the power to wound him. But now, with her standing right in front of him, looking so fragile and broken, his emotions threatened to boil over. He didn't respond, and so she continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I was foolish. Blind. I thought the grass was greener on the other side. Kunnal made me feel young and alive again, and I was too stupid to see what I had at home." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. "When you left, I thought I'd be fine. I thought I didn't need you. But everything fell apart, Michael. Connell used me, lied to me, and left me with nothing. And now, all I can think about is you, your kindness, your love, the life we built together. Michael inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. You broke me, Tola, he said quietly. Do you know what it's like to lie awake at night, wondering why you weren't enough for the person you gave your whole heart to? To question every memory, every promise? His voice trembled, raw with emotion. Tola sobbed harder. She reached for him, but he stepped back. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Please, Michael. I just want another chance. We can start over. I'll do anything, just don't turn me away. Michael stared at her, his mind a battlefield. Part of him wanted to take her in his arms, to believe that her tears meant something, to go back to the way things used to be. But another part, the wiser, wounded part, knew that forgiveness wasn't so simple. He turned away, his back to her. You want to start over now, when everything has crumbled? When I've spent a year piecing myself back together while you lived your life with someone else? His voice was cold now, steady. Tola dropped to her knees, clutching at his legs. Michael, please. I made a mistake, but I've learned my lesson. I don't care about the house, the money, anything. I just want you. Michael closed his eyes. In that moment, he saw flashes of their life together, their wedding day, late-night talks, quiet mornings over breakfast. But he also saw the text message, the lies, the nights he cried himself to sleep. When he opened his eyes again, his decision was clear. Get up, Tola, he said firmly. She hesitated, then slowly rose to her feet, her face streaked with tears. I can't go back, Michael said, his voice final. I loved you with everything I had, and you threw it away. I've spent this past year finding myself again, learning to live without you. I won't undo that by stepping back into the same pain. Tola's lips trembled. So that's it? After 10 years, you're just walking away? Michael looked at her, his expression unreadable. I walked away once because I had no choice, he said. Now I'm walking away because I choose peace. Tola's knees buckled, and she sank into a chair, sobbing. Michael turned and walked to the door. This time, he said softly, I won't leave a note. And with that, he stepped outside, leaving her alone in the silence she had created. The door slammed shut, and the echo of Michael's departure seemed to reverberate through the small apartment like a cruel reminder of reality. Tola sat frozen, her face buried in her trembling hands. The room smelled faintly of his cologne, and the sight of his empty teacup on the counter felt like a knife twisting in her heart. This wasn't how she had imagined it. In her mind, Michael would have been angry at first, yes, but then he would soften. She had expected a dramatic reconciliation, the kind she'd seen in movies. She would cry, beg, and promise to change, and he would forgive her because deep down, she knew he still loved her. But instead, he had walked away. Again. This time, with a finality that crushed her completely. Tola stumbled out of the apartment into the pouring rain. She called his name, her voice breaking, but Michael didn't turn back. He simply kept walking, his figure growing smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the gray curtain of water. That night, Tola returned to the house they had once shared. It was quiet, eerily so. Every corner of the house whispered memories of the life she had destroyed. Their wedding photo still hung on the living room wall, mocking her with its frozen image of happiness. She collapsed onto the couch and wept until her body ached. In the weeks that followed, she spiraled. She tried calling Michael countless times, but he never answered. She sent long messages filled with apologies and declarations of love, but he never replied. She even went to his workplace once, only to be told politely but firmly that he wasn't available. Tola's friends began to drift away. Some pitied her, others judged her. Her family, deeply ashamed, urged her to move on, but she couldn't. Michael wasn't just her husband, he had been her safe place, her provider, her anchor. Without him, she felt like a ship lost at sea. Meanwhile, Michael thrived quietly. It wasn't easy at first, but slowly, he rebuilt himself. He poured his energy into his work, earned a promotion, and even started a small side business. His mornings were filled with purpose, his evenings with peace. He began attending a local community center where he mentored young men navigating difficult relationships and life choices. Sharing his story, without bitterness, became a form of healing. One evening, a year after that fateful confrontation, Michael received a message from an unknown number. "Michael, this is Tola. I just wanted you to know. I'm leaving Lagos tomorrow. I can't stay here surrounded by memories of what I've lost. I'm sorry for everything. Truly." Michael read the message twice, then set his phone down. There was no anger in him, no lingering desire for revenge. Only a quiet sadness for what could have been. He didn't reply. Instead, he whispered to himself, sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. The next morning, Tola boarded a bus to Ibadan to live with her cousin. As the city skyline faded behind her, she stared out the window, reflecting on her choices. She had traded loyalty for fleeting excitement, stability for chaos, and now she was left with nothing but regret. For the first time, she understood what Michael had meant when he said he chose peace. 1 year later, Michael stood at the community center, watching a group of young men laugh and play basketball. A soft smile spread across his face. A friend approached him. "You've really changed, Michael. After everything you went through, you seem free." Michael nodded. "I am. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger or bitterness. It's building a life so beautiful that the person who broke you can't recognize you anymore." He glanced at the horizon, where the sun was setting in brilliant shades of orange and gold. Somewhere out there, Tola was living with the consequences of her choices. And Michael? He had finally found peace, not in getting her back, but in letting go. Betrayal can destroy trust, but it doesn't have to destroy you. Sometimes, the most powerful act of love is walking away, healing yourself, and choosing a future filled with dignity and peace.